Hi, I'm Anna.
I'm Ben.
We're AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're watching Neon Genesis Evangelion, episode 16. Things keep happening. They keep happening, and I don't know what's going on anymore.
I was going to ask you if you knew maybe like what was going to be happening in this episode, what we were going to get right into. But you're right, like things keep happening. What even is going to happen in this episode?
I could imagine picking immediately back up with Misato and Kaji at the end of last episode, but at the same time, Rei's in a tube, so that's where I'm at.
I think those are two really great options. I also think that Shinji and Asuka hanging out could also be an option.
More kissing?
More kissing.
All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. Asuka? Ooh, it's extra grainy. Fundamentally too self-deprecating.
Don't try to change him.
I love the red towels.
Look at his face. Interesting title.
Yeah.
Been drinking too much.
Hey! It's one way to look at it.
Are those two ever gonna be best friends? Or maybe Rei had some good social awareness there and knew Asuka was very upset and needed some time alone.
Those damn cicadas.
I love that you can feel the heat. A new angel has appeared.
Fuck?
It came like a shadow?
It looked like it came from a shadow. Nice!
Are we all attacking together?
A sneak attack. Look at the axe! Look at his scores!
Because he's awesome. Look at all of their facial expressions. They're
Shinji's
really...
like, bet! Oh, he wants to make his dad happy. Running with it.
You're not going too soft on him. Don't listen to Asuka. That's why we're worried. That's why we should be worried.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Sick.
The sound of the like leather or latex. Oh!
Directly
Oh my
beneath
God!
it is like
Wait,
the
wait,
shadow.
Wait. Is he like sinking into it?
What the fuck? Can you get out? Holy shit. Holy shit. We're gonna have to go in to get him out, no? They just melt into it.
How is that even possible?
The whole building? $16 hours. Oh, great. That's what
an
I want to hear.
omen.
計600メートルを超えたところで停止したままです。
あれあれだわ。独断専行作戦無視、自業自得もいいとこね。昨日のちょっといい結果が出たからって本を見せてやる。
Look at the lighting. Oh my god.
シンジの悪口を言われるのがそんなに不愉快？人に褒められるためにエヴァに言ってるの。違うわ。他人じゃない。で自分を褒めてあげたいからよ。
I want to be able to praise myself.
確かに独断専行だ。帰ってきたら叱ってあげなくちゃ。
Splitting of the breast.
眠ることがこんなに疲れるなんて思わなかったな。だやソナは帰ってこない。
This must be so disorienting.
明治モードに切り替えてから
12 hours. Oh shit.
命もあと4、5時間か。
At least he knows how much time he has.
あの影の部分が使徒の本体なわけ？
空間を内向きの AT フィールドで支え、内部はリラックの海と呼ばれる虚数空間、別の宇宙に繋がってるんじゃないかしら。
What?
あの球体は？
回路が閉じれば消えてしまう空の物体こそ影に過ぎない。
Okay.
初号機を取り込んだ黒い影が目標か。そんなのどうしようもないじゃん。
That's so fucking cool, dude.
水が濁ってきてる。浄化能力が落ちてきてるんだ。血の匂いだ。嫌だ。ここは嫌だ。なんでロックが外れないんだよ。ミサコさんどうなってるんだよ。ミサコさん、あんた、綾波。お願い。誰か助けて。
エヴァの強制サルベージ？
可能と思われる唯一の方法よ。現存するすべての N2 爆雷を中心部にと残存するエヴァ2体の AT フィールドを使い、空回路に1000分の1秒だけ干渉するわ。
でもそれじゃエヴァの機体がシンジ君がどうなるか作戦とは言えないわ。
作戦は初号機の機体回収を最優先とします。たとえボディが大破しても構わない。この際、パイロットの生死は問いません。シンジ君を失うのはあなたのミスなのよ。それ忘れないで。
いやあなたがそこまで初号機にこだわる理由。
Remember what this is after.
エヴァって何なの？
あなたに渡した資料がすべてよ。
嘘ね。
Has she given you information? You just haven't connected the
私
dots?
を信じて。この作戦についての一切の指揮を私が取ります。関空を回すわ。航空管制と空自の戦略輸送団に連絡を。
保管計画。アダム。まだ私の知らない秘密があるんだ。
誰？
Is this like when he saw Rey?
誰？碇シンジ。それは僕だ。人は自分の中にもう一人の自分を持っている。常に二人でできているものさ。二人？それを見つめている自分だよ。碇シンジという人物だって何人もいる。心の中にいるもう一人の碇シンジ。桂木美里の心の中にいる碇シンジ。宗竜飛鳥の中のシンジ。碇玄道の中のシンジ。みんなそれぞれ違う碇シンジだけど、どれも本物の碇シンジさ。君はその他人の中の碇シンジが嫌われるのが怖いんだよ。自分が傷つくのが怖い。悪いのは誰だ？悪いのは父さんだ。捨てた父さんだ。悪いのは自分だ。
ですぐに自分が悪いと思い込む。それが内罰的だって言うのよ。と思っている自分でしょ。お父さんのこと信じられないの？
でも今はわからない。
よくやったな、シンジ。
父さんが僕の名前を呼んだんだ。父さんに褒められたんだよ。その喜びを反芻してこれから生きていくんだ。 これからも生きていけるさ。自分を騙し続けて。誰だってそうやって生きてるんだ。自分はこれでいいんだと思い続けて。出なければ生きていけないよ。僕が生きていくには辛いことが多すぎるんだ。例えば泳げないこと。
人は浮くようにはできてないんだよ。
泳ぎマンだね。
呼び方なんか関係ないさ。
人には目をつぶり耳を塞いできたないか。
あいつの妹、この間の騒ぎで。
人のことなんて関係ないでしょ。
帰れ。
やだ。
Self-deception.
また逃げてる。紡いで生きていられるはずがないんだよ。特に僕はね。
Oh.
そればっかりやってね。何が悪いんだよ。
プラグスーツの生命維持システムも危険域に入ります。
12分予定を早めましょう。シンジ君が生きている可能性がまだあるうちに。
Ritsuko is trying in her own way.
The version inside is the child Shinji watching his dad leave.
僕はいらない子供なの。
自分から逃げ出したくせに。
そうだ。この男は自分の妻を殺した疑いがある。自分の妻を殺したんだ。
笑ってた。
What?
あなたは人に褒められる立派なことをし
シンジ、逃げてはいかん。
頑張ってね。
ここは嫌だ。一人はもう法も酸素の循環も切れてる。寒い。ダメだ。いつも限界だ。
This must be fucking terrifying.
もう疲れた。何もかも。お母さん。
もういいの？そうよかったわね。何が始まったの？状況は？
わかりません。
すべてのメーターはまだ何もしていないの。
What the fuck?
シンジ君が
ありえないわ。エネルギーがゼロなのよ。
What?
What?
Wait.
Was it the Evangelion? Oh my god. Listen to it rain.
私こんなのに乗ってる。
なんてものをコピーしたの。
What?
私たちは
Copied
た
from.
だの第一使徒のコピーなんかじゃないのはわかる。わ使徒をすべて倒した後、エヴァをどうするつもりなの？シンジ君、シンジ君、シンジ君、大丈夫、シンジ君。
あったんだ。もう一度。
叱るんじゃなかったの？
本当にエヴァの味方なのでしょうか。私たちは憎まれているのかもしれませ
They
ん。
may hate us.
何か感づいているかもしれません。
そうか。今はいい。
レイやシンジ君がエヴァの秘密を知ったら許してもらえないでしょうね。
Why them two specifically?
It has to deal with Shinji's mom. What is this shot?
あとは私たちで処理するわ。
でももう大丈夫だよ。
よかったわね。
That's good for you. That's what his mom just said. What is happening? Aw.
取れないや血の匂い
What? Okay, that was Neon Genesis Evangelion episode 16. It's been about an hour since we finished watching the episode. A helicopter is outside of our house and it's been stalking us. And you could hear it in the audio. You might be able to still, but hopefully it's a lot more bearable or very quiet if we're able to get, okay. So, oh my god, we haven't talked about it yet, but there's so much that went into this episode that I want to talk about that I feel like I understand. And then there's so much I want to talk about what I don't understand, specifically in terms of Rei and Shinji and putting them once again on a different line or conversation point than Asuka in terms of like the end of the episode when we're talking with Ritsuko and Gendo about, we have to make sure they can't know.
Those specific two names, but not the other child that is also a pilot. Why the exclusion there for Asuka with that line? I feel like my heart is being tugged in a few different directions, and I feel like this discussion, while it's probably going to be fun, will also be maybe hard because of that. Like, I feel like my heart is being tugged in terms of what I would want to talk about first, what I'm trying to understand, like you had said.
Yeah. If Rei or Shinji were to find out about the Eva secrets, like,
if they were to find out.
It just gives more credence and adds more weight to the idea that it's connected with them, to me, like in terms of like relation or genetically in terms of the Evangelions and Shinji and Rei. I'm not sure. I definitely want to talk about what I think, what our reactions were to the Evangelion this episode, because Asuka specifically had a good one.
A good reaction,
but I want to know what we think the characters are going to be feeling going forward in terms of like Misato, but also the three pilots in terms of Rei, Shinji, and Asuka.
And we get a little bit of what Ritsuko is going to be feeling going forward. I think with the line that we've already talked about, she's already worried about Misato figuring things out. She's already worried about what if Rei and Shinji figure out more. She's wondering about the Evas also. We get what she is thinking by the end of the episode, but all the other characters, how are they going to be feeling going forward?
Yeah. I feel like I was going to say start with Shinji, but I feel like that's just opening like a bomb of content. Yeah. Let's say Rei.
Okay.
So Rei this episode, even though I loved her presence this episode, I feel like has the least amount of things I want to talk about in terms of like her reaction to the Evangelions and everything else going on. And I say that with reason, I think. But it feels like this might have been the first time Rei went out of her way to disobey or push back in a very severe, sincere way to orders being given to her. Once Shinji's lost to the fucking Shadow Realm dimension, and you see him sinking in, and we get Misato giving the orders to back off. We're calling off. We're getting out of here. Rei almost interrupts Asuka and surprises her. Like, Asuka has a visceral reaction to hearing Rei be like, well, what about Unit and Shinji? They're still in there. Like, hearing her say that and Asuka's reaction surprised me. It caught me off guard. It meant a lot to me. And I'm also like, that's like a good approach, right? You're coming at it from like a military-esque, like nerve-esque approach. We're not just talking about Shinji
the
here.
asset that is being lost here. You know, that's a good way to approach it when you're kind of trying to talk to people who have kind of personal feelings about the matter, the subjective and the objective about it all. And honestly, I think Rei surprised me in a few different areas in this episode. I think your example has to do with her also, and Asuka's reaction to that, the fact that she's saying something, speaking up, and then she also interacts with Asuka a few other times in this episode that I also found surprising. I think that what is awakening a surprise in this character to me is the use of the device that is Shinji, and maybe even the Ikari family. Maybe that family, those two guys, are being utilized to kind of unlock Rei for the viewer.
I like that. I like that approach to it. I had an interesting thought, like, in going through the episode, the second time that we really get pushback from Rei was when Asuka and her are kind of talking, not necessarily to each other, but just talking, and then Rei kind of steps in. It was during this crazy sequence. This episode is a little bit more grainy, like artistically, and I was like, oh, interesting. But then it really came to a front in like such a gorgeous way. If I can pull it up, there are these crazy like highlights and shadows and close-ups of Asuka's eye.
Are you talking about when she looked really creepy for a second there? Like almost like Asuka was like evil for like a couple seconds?
Yeah. Okay, Asuka's saying taking matters into his own hands, ignoring the plan. Honestly, talk about getting what he deserved. Just because he got a little better score on yesterday's tests, he was going to show me how it's done. Firstly, I love this shot of Rei. Like, it's very highlight heavy and exposure heavy, and it's because of the dark atmosphere and environment they're in, and because of the massive bright lights that are shining down on them that create these really harsh black shadows. Look at them. What a big-headed idiot. And then Rei steps in. What, is my bad-mouthing of Shinji that much of a problem to you? Look at this shot! The bright highlights on her hair, and then the dark cover over her face and the blue piercing eyes.
Yeah. And then Rei's expression is very serious in every frame that you get of her before she walks up to Asuka and then once she's walked up to Asuka. I really love this interaction. I feel like I almost don't want to talk about it fully yet until we talk about Asuka and how she might feel going forward. That's
fair. Like, do you pilot Eva just for the praise of others? No, not of others. I do it because I want to be able to praise myself.
Okay. I do it because I want to be able to praise myself.
Okay. Asuka is easily... I feel like this is a weird like thing to say because of how much of the episode we got about the Angel and about Shinji and Misato and Ritsuko's like slap interaction. But I feel like Asuka for me was like a sleeper missile this episode of content and like of character, and she's one of my favorite characters. And it feels like earlier in the episode when we get them leaving the tests and the praise that Shinji gets from doing so well, we get Asuka in the locker room with Rei. Let me see if I can bring up a couple of the lines. This just means we get to take it easy now, right? Like we're coping, you'd think, at like in response to Shinji doing so well, but I guess we should at least do our best not to be left behind. How I read Asuka with this interaction and then the interaction that Rei interjects on about how she's so bombastic like in regards to Shinji and how he got himself into situation, but also going before the situation even happens. It feels like Asuka is trying to deal with her own insecurities or her own feelings of how she's grieving or dealing with the idea of not being the best or not performing the best, and Shinji doing what he did, and in letting it out verbally here and talking it out loud, maybe there's a part of her that wants Rei to just validate her a little bit and validate her feelings, even if it's just her going through it, and this is all just a result of her trying to deal with her own feelings rather than her just being mean or pointed toward Shinji, you know?
Okay, well, thank you for kind of wanting to bring it up in that way. Like, you used some words that kind of made me think maybe a little differently, or begin to think maybe a little differently, because I definitely felt very infuriated with Asuka in terms of how she was acting in this episode, especially once we get to Shinji being in grave danger and Rei even stepping forward and being like the one to kind of shut down Asuka's tirade, if you will. I felt infuriated. I felt annoyed, I think intentionally so, because Asuka definitely pushes and kind of creates a situation of egging someone on, you know, to do what they do and what Shinji inevitably ends up doing. And when you bring up the idea of coping, I think that's one of the first words you said that I started to kind of like latch on to, like, okay, I am going to try to take a step back from any like, oh, I'm so annoyed with her right now. Why is she talking like that about Shinji? I'm going to try to take a step back from that and think about, okay, well, why is she talking like this? It's not like she thinks in this grave situation moment, especially, that it's the time and the place. Like, I don't think she's stupid.
Yeah.
So I don't think she thinks this is a great time for me to be bad-mouthing Shinji, because I don't think she's stupid. So when I think about it from the perspective of her trying to work through something, she's and when you're younger, when you're older, when you're trying to work through something that's like exceedingly difficult, like think about the situation she's in. She has been living with this kid, she's been friends with this kid, she's become somewhat of like a found family with this kid, and now he's in this situation. Yes, she might be upset that he was doing better than her, but now he's in a situation where he could die, and she's having to grapple with these really intense emotions within her. And I can speak on the fact that, like, anger, jealousy, all of those really tough emotions to deal with are really hard to keep sat inside you and not come out in ways that are kind of ugly and not necessarily how you intend or want to act. And so to think about her verbally attacking or verbally bad-mouthing as a way of her trying to kind of work through her own feelings and maybe cope some sort of confidence. Like, I feel like maybe even trying to cope some sort of confidence, like, what Shinji got himself into this. She's almost trying to keep her head above water, I guess.
I think I could definitely be like overreading it or misreading it, but it compiled with, we see how she feels at the end of the episode outside of the hospital room, and we can see the look on her face and that she's thankful that Shinji's okay. And earlier in the episode, she's the one who was like, you know, ma'am, I think Shinji ought to take point. And I just imagine a character like Asuka and trying to deal with her own feelings. I think there's a world after he's gone that she's blaming herself.
Would she feel guilt for the line you just said?
Yeah.
Like, would you feel guilt in
And
that situation?
in dealing with if you're trying to, like, especially when you're in the moment still and the clock's still running, Shinji has 16 hours of life support. You could try to deal with the feelings that you're feeling by blaming Shinji for doing it himself. And I don't know.
It's childish, sure, but is there something is she trying in her own way to somewhat regulate herself?
I think that Asuka is a extremely interesting character, and I think that feeling as much as I did coming off of this episode, I feel like it's either just because I'm an over fan of Asuka, or like it's intentional, and the idea of her writing and as her as a character, because it feels that way about every character in the show, like specifically like Misato and Ritsuko. Like, everybody has so much depth to them that it's hard not to look a little deeper and think about why they are saying what they are.
You wouldn't get defensive of Rei approaching you unless you already felt like insecurity.
Yeah.
Unless you already felt like you knew what you were doing was wrong, or you didn't want to be called out, or you felt insecure. I feel like her reaction to Rei when Rei approaches her feels very defensive. Like, are you mad at me because I'm bad-mouthing him? She automatically is treating Rei here as Rei enters like an enemy, which is not a very natural. I know they're not great friends and they're not, buddy, but how Asuka immediately receives Rei coming up to her feels very defensive, like she knows that she's doing something that isn't necessarily productive, helpful, or even fits her true feelings. Because I agree, I think Asuka cares a lot for Shinji, and I think that it's shown in a lot of different ways that she does genuinely care, and I can see, though I was blinded by being infuriated with her, that I can like sift through and see that what I'm seeing is maybe a person who is scared, insecure, upset for a multitude of reasons.
I do it because I want to be able to praise myself. Like, I think that Asuka wants to be the best version of herself and exceed even those limits. And
what's the psychology of wanting to be able to praise yourself versus a person that wants to be getting praise from other people like Shinji?
I am going to give Asuka that because I don't know, I believe it, and I felt it that way. I guess, okay, well, we talked about Asuka. Shinji's going to be a little bit more difficult to talk about. We had a couple of shots in the episode of Shinji, like, grasping his hand.
His hands, yeah. And then the little kids were laughing at him.
Yeah,
and
he got all, like, embarrassed.
Hey, little kids, don't you ever just do weird things?
It's just so vastly different, like, two different approaches to how we can talk about Shinji this episode. The before he gets absorbed into the Shadow Angel, which is probably my second favorite angel in the series at this point.
The pyramid is the favorite.
Yeah, the UAP. But I like before then and then after then, because like the before then of how you can see like the light in his eyes when he gets told how well he's doing. And I can imagine a world that he's like, oh my God, if I'm doing this well, then it's only a matter of time before I'm told that I'm doing a good job again from my father.
Like the fact that he probably had this perception and this feeling of excitement, happiness, confidence going into this mission because he was doing so well and therefore was probably gonna eventually hear from his dad, hey Shinji, good work. Hear his name be said by his dad.
But like it definitely like leaned into his self-confidence. Like you said it, didn't you? You are number one, like quoting that back to Misato.
So it's not just like obviously Asuka egged slightly, but Shinji was very ready to take it. It wasn't like someone egging you on like peer pressure and you're like forced into it because you don't want to say no to this person. He was like, he took what Asuka said almost as sincere in that moment just because he had that confidence in himself because he was told he was doing well by Misato.
Yeah. And then, okay, so I guess narratively, chronologically, let's talk about what's going on with Shinji after he's been taken. The water's getting cloudy. The purification system is giving out. It stinks in here. Blood. It smells of blood.
Why does it smell like blood? Why is there blood? That's just a question.
So
I don't
two
know
things.
The answer.
Number one, the idea of Shinji knowing in terms of protocol how many hours he's been in there, how many hours of life support the Evangelion would have, therefore he's able to deduce that he's able to have 4 or 5 hours left until he would inevitably die. I find that assuring. Like, if I am in the situation that Shinji's in, I would want to know how much oxygen I have left, even if it amounts in me dying. I think that it's already a fucking terrifying enough situation that you don't know where the fuck you are or how you're gonna get out of it. At least I can hold on to the knowing of how much longer I have, you know?
I've never been in one of those, like, deprivation chambers. I imagine that this is what that feels like, but involuntary, obviously, because most people go into those on a voluntary basis. But I imagine... I do think that having a timer is actually reassuring and calming because I feel like if you're in this blankness and you're having this fear, knowing that you still have time to go for the oxygen and it's not all actual darkness and blankness and that there's still like somewhat of like a hope that you could cling on to of a time that you could be saved, it could prolong the time of sanity, you know, before you might start slipping into like panic mode.
Like I'm not making any argument other than like if I had the choice to know or not, I would pick to choose it. But also think about like this is something I'm imagining we're going to be talking about in terms of Gendo and Ritsuko later on in the episode and how Ritsuko reacted and decided to go about trying to retrieve not Shinji but the unit. Imagine if like how much the situation would have changed if it was 20 hours instead of just on the cusp of 16. Like if the idea and likelihood that Shinji was completely dead, I wonder how different this would have gone down. You know what I mean? That's just a stray thought that I had. But my other wanting to bring this up is the idea of it smells awful, blood, it smells of blood. And no, I don't want to be here. At the end of the episode, we get Shinji still smelling the blood, and it's Shinji exploding here.
I mean, when he breaks out of the shadow sphere angel, it's all blood.
Yeah.
Which was very surprising to me. I was not expecting it to be... I was like, is it just colored red for dramatic effect? But he smelled it and he said it, and I was like, no, actually, I do think that's a bunch of blood.
I don't know. Like, what's your best guess? Like, okay, so it's blood, it smells like blood. We've already seen the fucking Evangelion. And with the language given at the end of the episode, it's like, okay, has Nerve tried to clone/copy an angel in this way, and we are with inside of it, obviously with the plug, and because of the filtration system, Shinji is not able to notice and see that what he is in that isn't being filtered would just be like organic material and blood, like a membrane.
Like if there wasn't all that extra stuff that's kind of packed in the place that he's within in the Eva, would he be smelling something? Would he be sensing something? Yeah, like, oh, okay.
It almost like reminds me of like a
Like
decontamination chamber or something. Like if like you're put in there and then the liquid's filled up, it's like that filtration system that's going. I wonder if because of it breaking, he's able to actually be able to, you know, sense, smell, use his senses to be able to see what's really there behind the filtration.
Well, whatever it is, obviously he smells the blood. It's terrifying to him. It throws him into a panic, and it still lingers. Is it one of those things where it still lingers because some scents linger for a very long time because they're just that strong? Or is it lingering on more of a mental, emotional level where you just still smell it because maybe of how traumatic of an experience this was for you?
It starts off with this weird red shot. And then we get a shot of Shinji that's very fisheye. It almost reminds me of the Rei shot that we got a couple of episodes that I really liked. I love fisheye. Who's there? Shinji Ikari. That's me. This is when we start talking about there being two versions of oneself, right?
Yes.
I am you. People have another self within themselves. The self is always composed of two people.
I find this line of thinking so incredibly fascinating.
Yeah.
It's something that I think about in my free time.
The self which is actually seen, and the self observing that. There are many entities called Shinji Ikari. The other Shinji Ikari that exists in your mind. The Shinji Ikari in Misato's mind. The Shinji in Asuka's mind. The Shinji in Rei's mind. The Shinji in Gendo's mind. All are different Shinjis, but each of them is a true Shinji. You are afraid of those Shinjis in other people's minds. I'm afraid of other people hating me. You're afraid of being hurt. Who is at fault? And it's like, you had brought it up during the reaction, but it's like, Shinji looking and conversing with like a true version, raw version of himself who's able to see through all the pain and trauma to see the truth of the matter, and that version of himself is him younger while being traumatized.
Isn't that interesting that the age of which his kind of internal self is the age seemingly that Gendo walked away from him?
Father is the one at fault. The father who deserted me. It's my fault. Then we get a flash of, there you go, always immediately thinking that it's your fault. That's why I say you're self-deprecating. I can't do anything. You just believe that you can't do anything. Don't you have faith in your father from Rei? Good work, Shinji. Of course that's what's coming up here. I think that it was so well done and so fascinating that with what Shinji was just saying to himself was met with those flashes and examples of what could be seen as the truth.
I love when someone argues to themselves one thing and then something else that almost feels like the opposite side of the coin gets thrown back at them. Like, I'm scared of people hating me. No, you're scared of getting hurt. Like, which one are you really actually more scared of? Which sounds better? Which feels like you're protecting some sense of self?
If it all comes down to a word that we get to eventually, which is self-deception. And I love the concept of self-deception because there's a line in regards to a rosary that might be my favorite line in Neon Genesis Evangelion, but we'll get there. My father called me by my name. I was praised by my father. You're going to spend the rest of your life ruminating on that happiness?
I wrote that down and put a star next to it.
If I believe in those words, I can keep on living.
If I believe in them, if I believe that I do.
If you make that choice, if you choose to live in the world that you believe that, you can keep on living. As you continue to deceive yourself, everybody does it. That's how everyone survives.
I love this, no one's making that argument. Of course everyone, does it. That doesn't mean it's a good and healthy thing to do. I feel like that's so applicable to, everyone. I feel like some of this conversation probably affects people that are watching it.
Yeah, you're making an argument that nobody's making in the sense that, okay, yeah, I'm not saying that what you're saying is untrue, but you aren't striving you're not accepting the fact that things could be better, and you're hiding from the truth of the matter.
Are you living or are you truly living? You might be going about your life and keeping yourself as safe as possible, but are you truly living? Are you truly being able to experience the heights of the human experience?
Yeah, believe that you're fine with the way things are, or you won't be able to keep living. There's too much hardship in this world for me to keep living. For example, the fact you can't swim, humans aren't made to float. That is self-deception. I don't care what you call it. You've shut your eyes and turned a deaf ear to the things you don't like. Holy shit. Like, I'm not, this is me just doing a disservice to Shinji as a character. I was so surprised in the best way possible and caught off guard at the internalization of Shinji's mentality here and the way that he's able to be so introspective with himself. And to be honest with you, I'm curious if he's only able to because of the state that his life was in that let this barrier break.
Yeah, it seems that he's able to be introspective about everything else up until this point other than himself, seemingly. And I'm also appreciating with this kind of look into him that he's not just he's more complex than just some sweet boy that should be coddled and protected that'll say yes to whatever you ask him to do and
He's
just wants
dealing
to be
with his
praised
trauma.
by others.
Yeah.
It's so much more complex to that. Like, there's things going on deeper. He's not just this almost like empty slate that some might view him at the beginning of this series, or they might think that other people are treating him like he is. But I think Misato and everyone else has been thinking that there is a lot going on deeper and have felt like they have an understanding of maybe what we're witnessing here.
When somebody has dealt with severe trauma, especially when they have to be alone in dealing with the aftermath, one of the steps that they take sometimes is trying to mask everything that happened and put a blanket over it and not look at it and not touch it and act like it was never there. And that's a coping method for sure. But the terrifying part of that is if somebody's trying to force that blanket off of all the stuff that you're trying to bury and you don't want that to happen, once that blanket's pulled off, it is terrifying. It's excruciating even. It's reality breaking.
Your self-deception ends up devolving you into this convoluted, paradoxical person who probably has much harder chance at ever actually finding peace or happiness, or even ability to be aware of who you truly are and actually identify who you truly are or how you truly feel. Because at the end of the day, if you're constantly deceiving yourself, how do you then figure out what really is true and what is not, and what has just been buried or hidden behind a wall?
You're completely right. His sister was injured during the incident. We get the flash of Toji. Who cares what the others say? Leave. No, I don't want to hear this.
All the things that were painful for him or unhappy to him, the idea that other people wouldn't want him or would be mad at him getting hurt, he doesn't want to think about any of it.
The fact that this is on the train as well is super fascinating. It brings me back to the episode of the long pause once we see that Shinji didn't leave and we see Misato across the tracks.
I like that too, because it is when he was actively actually running away.
Yeah.
Like, he literally was. And then, yeah, did Gendo leave on a train when he went away from Shinji?
I love the idea and the concept of running away in different methods and methodology, right? You can physically run away, but you can also run away internally in so many different variations at so many different steps in your life.
That was one of our fun parallels. I think it was for last episode that we talked about with Misato, and also Shinji giving us a literal example that he's run away before in the past, before maybe what we've witnessed.
And what Misato is running away from within the Kaji relationship and ending it.
It definitely is not a theme that is over with. We are not done with there's no conclusion yet to the running away, but that's not something that's quickly said and done with. Oh, I'm never going to run away again, both internally or externally.
This is why, we're going to bookend this little part of the discussion with what we brought it up as. What is every individual going to be like going forward? Because I think that's something we don't know yet and will be the determining factor of how running away will look like within this series, if it will prop up again.
I think Shinji's the biggest question mark for me with that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I could begin to theorize for Asuka how she might feel going forward, but for Shinji,
it's going to be hard, man. See, you're running away again. Oh my god. It's so good. There's no way you can live by linking just the enjoyable moments like a rosary.
That you can, because the rosary, you go in the circle and you pray and you clutch each bead and you.
Like, the imagery is so strong. I felt like I've never benefited from my Catholic education more. Like, I remember
And watching this show, you're like, thank goodness.
Like, truthfully, in school for 9 years straight growing up, they would have these men come with these, like a life-size, like, oversized rosary that we'd go out into the field, and we'd have to all help put together and lay around, and we'd each have to stand physically on each rosary bead. They'd all give us, like, Tootsie Rolls and stuff for doing a good job.
Yep.
But
we also got Tootsie Rolls for doing a good job.
Having, like, the physical imagery in mind of linking just the enjoyable moments together like a rosary, and, like, you know how much you have to hold and linger and then repeat on each single bead. Like, it is so profound of an image.
Are you going to ruminate about what your father said forever?
Especially not me. I found something I enjoy. Finding something you enjoy and doing nothing but that. What's wrong with that? Then we go back to the outside of things. I wanted to close off the Shinji side of things once we go back to him again, because there was something that I think both of us fucking were freaking out about hearing that completely recontextualizes Shinji's life.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
We see Shinji crying.
He has a bag.
His dad walking away. Father, am I unwanted? I'm like, oh, okay, normal Evangelion stuff. Father, you're the one who ran away. I'm like, oh, okay. That's right. He may be guilty of killing his own wife.
And
what
I was like,
the fuck?
Hold the phone.
What are we talking about?
Time out. They didn't even give us, like, any time. Wait, what's the top say?
I'm trying to pause on the very first one. Expedition team returns. Second impacts. Crystallized DNA theory. Pride of our nation's DNA field. What? UN undisclosed. We get a, like, distorted picture. Dark side of the UN. Undisclosed organizations corrupt.
Just, like, headlines flashing.
Year 2004.
DNA manipulation, I saw.
DNA manipulation. And then we can't forget the actual words under it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Year 2004. Fear of biohazard. Engineers eating away at God's domain.
Well, because if you're doing DNA manipulation, there are going to be groups of people that are incredibly upset about that.
To conduct research for, researching in the same lab, Miss Yui Ikari, 27, fell victim to it. Mistake in control.
She definitely was a researcher, is the feeling that I'm getting. Like, she and Gendo were maybe working together with this. And so if they're blaming him for her death, maybe it's because of that mishap together when they were working together in a lab. But it seems like she wasn't just like a housewife, let's say, and he came home and he murdered her, you know? It seems like she was maybe a part of similar ventures that he's a part of, or was originally a part of before Nerve.
At the Artificial Evolution Laboratory, critical incident. You know what's interesting? The concept that, like, what if you are on Earth and we're living by the Bible, and you as humanity are witnessing, like, the rapture or angels coming down, and for Lucifer and everything to come to fruition like it's foretold, and you're witnessing what could be the end of humanity and the end of the world, but you want to rebel. You want to say, no, I want to stay. I know that this is what's, quote, like, scripted to happen, right? But how do I make sure that I'm safe? How do I get what I want? How do I make humanity survive? Evolution. Like, let's evolve at a rate quicker than we naturally can so that we can overcome this. That's where my mind goes.
But obviously some mistake happened with that, and Shinji's mother was lost with that, died. I always get a little, like, you know, I don't know if it's like I start theorizing when I hear the word died, but I always like to remind myself that when we talk about death for a character, it doesn't always mean literal death. It can mean that the part of them that existed previously has died and they've become almost a new person. In this case, with the idea of a biohazard, DNA manipulation, is that
calamity.
a death of who she was as a human, and therefore is a death, but not actually dead because she's still alive in some other form, just different?
Supreme Court rules not guilty. The deficiency of bioethics. My mind goes to like what you were saying, like think about how much we get of cover-ups within the world of Neon Genesis Evangelion. What fucking catastrophe needs to happen that, like, I'm sure ideally Gendo wouldn't want this getting out that his wife died. Like, what fucking happened that was so big and obvious that you couldn't sweep this under the rug? Or you're saying that she died as like a smokescreen to what you're saying because there's more to it, and that's what you want everybody else assuming happened.
Whatever the final story is, though, he's obviously been cleared because he wouldn't be trusted with basically saving the world and have all of the money at his feet, all of the funding and nerve and all those people working for him if it was a known fact that people thought he killed his wife. Like, there obviously either was some sort of cover story, there was some sort of accepted, he didn't actually do it, she died, it was an accident in the lab, it was unintentional,
Mistake,
accidental,
yeah.
It wasn't like intentional
Bribery.
harm, like murder.
I saw the word bribery on the screen, so that could be involved in the Supreme Court ruling that. Then we get to see what looks like to be Shinji and his mom. Short hair like Rei.
Yeah. And the other times we see what is probably Shinji's mom, it's kind of like scratched out. So we can never truly get an exact... It does kind of look like Rei, except the hair color is different.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't know what my uncomfortability is with like jumping onto that theory that Rei has a relation to Shinji. I don't know why I feel so like my feet are like... I'm like pushing them into the sand, like I don't want to walk any further.
I mean, thank you. It keeps us grounded in terms of being able to have a discussion.
Maybe, but I feel like we keep getting little things that I'm like, oh, okay, that's another little piece of evidence that I can put in that bucket that I kind of don't want to look at.
Bro, we haven't even gotten to, well, that's good for you, you know?
Yeah, we haven't even talked about one of the biggest pieces of evidence that is kind of undeniable of why are we saying something so similar. But to kind of end this idea of Gendo possibly killing Shinji's mom, just to end us talking about it, it did feel like Shinji doesn't believe that's true. That's maybe just a personal feeling I have at the moment.
Well, which Shinji, right?
Which Shinji?
Which side of the car?
I feel like we would have heard it before. I feel like Shinji would have thought it before or said it before. Like, why would he want praise from someone that he views killed his mom if that's how he truly felt?
What I'm suggesting is, like, of course that version of Shinji wouldn't think or even consider that because of what his chosen reality and self-deception has placed him to be. But
memories you could have behind a barrier.
Yeah, that barrier, though, within this instance seems to be breaking quite a bit, and there's this harsh fucking distillation of reality and hard truth that is breaking that barrier.
And we got a piece of that. We got a big hard truth on the screen that we were like, wait, why are we going past this fact so quickly? Or this, not even a fact, because we don't know it's a fact that Gendo killed his wife, but why are we moving so fast past a statement so heavy like that?
Look, there has to be, like, for reporters are gonna say crazy shit all the fucking time, of course, but, like, you'd have to know the details. There'd have to be some interesting details to be able to come out and make an accusation like that.
Enough that there was a case about it and people would have ruled and had opinions.
But it must have been closer, because if not, then you could just fucking, like, I don't know. That's defaming Gendo to a whole different degree if you had no involvement in it. I think that there must have been an obvious connection between it.
Maybe. People can get charged or be culpable of a death even if they didn't directly like intend for that person to die.
I hate this place. I don't want to be alone anymore. So this is one of the key points that I'd written down because we linger on it. And there's something about lingering on shots within Evangelion that I absolutely adore. It's like an intentional pacing that you're trying to let somebody else feel. Look at how much pain Shinji looks in right now. And when he says anymore, the heating and the oxygen circulation are already out. And then he, like, curls up being cold. I'm cold. It's useless. The suit is giving out too. So this is the end. I'm tired of it all. Like, right there. that like expression change of feeling the emotions that you're feeling to almost letting go. I am having trouble reading, right? Of all of it. Is it like the acceptance of what's about to come, i.e., death, if that's coming and you're tired of it all, like I'm letting it go, like it's being let go? Or at this point, is Shinji losing complete consciousness where he is dying currently or about to die?
As someone who recently fainted, I'm gonna go, like, my read of it is like slipping into like out of consciousness.
Yeah.
Is how it feels like, because that once you actually start slipping out, it doesn't feel super scary anymore. It's almost like nothing matters and everything kind of drops away. It's almost like oddly peaceful to some degree. Like you're not feeling like immense anxiety once you've started slipping into like out of consciousness. So like my take would be that's what's happening right now.
It's like, think about how long we're like lingering on the shot too.
Did you get worried for a second? Like that, like the thing paused or something
No.
was wrong? For like 1 second in my brain, I wasn't worried, but I thought, is Ben worried about this right now? Is he thinking that like something happened with the show?
I'm just like, there's so much intention behind it, and thankfully we have an expert in fainting here. But like the idea
That's the
of
gold medal that I've always wanted.
the idea of like just losing that consciousness, or like the idea of it being taken from you, the consciousness and the worries that come along with it and all the pain that comes along with it, is something that's very hard to deal with and traumatic. And then we get the light, right? The hand reaching out. Who we're identifying as mother definitely does not have short hair within the appearance that is reaching out to Shinji.
There's
I'm
also
not
no
saying
details
that it needs to at all be a physical representation of Yui for it to actually be Yui, in terms of whether Shinji's about to die and from the afterlife his mother doesn't want that to happen, to the idea that we're talking about that Yui is potentially the Evangelion itself in terms of the personality transplant, and that's why in this like idea of the purification of the oxygen being out, we're on death's door, there's something in that consciousness in the Evangelion, because we even get what Ritsuko's feelings on their feelings could be, that reaching out and being able to approach Shinji here. Mother.
Right, I feel like it's not that he visually thinks that what he's seeing is his mother. I think it's much more on a sense kind of level, like the essence of it. Not necessarily the form, but the feeling of which is kind of washing over him in that moment is what gives him the reaction to identify it as mother, ? Maybe even a scent. Like there could be a lot that's happening in that scene as she's almost kind of reaching for, hugging him and washing over him. There's a lot that could be coming from that, from both just like feelings and waves of emotion to smells and scents and sights.
Then we get, it looks like Yui being like charcoaled out. Like there's this movie that you and I have both seen that like a character, when looking at other people in the universe, they have something over the other people that like, it's almost like a self boundary, right? You don't want to let people in. You don't want to see those people in your life, or like let them get too close to you. It almost feels like that to a certain extent from Shinji's memory of his mother. Like if that floodgate opens of barely memories you have at that young age, you might be realizing the reality of what could have happened to your mom and whose fault it was.
Okay, yeah, what you're bringing up here I find really, really interesting, so I would want to talk about for just like a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
The artistic choice of charcoaling out her face instead of showing a glare over it, like a photo glare or a sunlight glare or a blurriness. The fact that it feels like it's been scratched out with something darker feels like it's purposeful. It doesn't feel like, oh, this is a faded memory that because of age and time and how young I was the last time I saw her, that's why it's so inaccessible for me. It feels much more purposeful, like it's inaccessible for me because it has been scratched out or removed purposefully by myself or others. The image of her, the idea of her existence has been scratched out by others. It could be that he does remember her, but because what ended up being her demise or what happened to her it feels like someone else has removed her from Shinji's life and therefore removed her from his memories. I feel like it's the artistic choice of black charcoal
Yeah, I know, right?
feels like it's on purpose.
Are you ready? And then we get Shinji reaching out something. Do you think this is anything more, or is it just like a candy?
I thought it was a candy when I first saw it.
It could easily just be a candy, but it could also be Adam. Well, that's good for you. There you go. Well, that's good for you. Dude,
Which is not a very common phrase.
I absolutely... Yeah, you're right. It's not a common phrase. So, like, definitely adds into the bucket of the Rey weirdness. But
it feels like a specific way that someone responds. Like, do you ever, like, does a kid ever reach out with a candy to you? And you're like, are you ready, kid? And they're like, with a candy. And you're like, good for you. You're like, oh, you have a candy. Like, that's not, like, what everyone's gonna respond with.
Yeah. This angel's so cool. It's so fucking neat, man. The idea...
terrifying. Neat but terrifying.
It's just so neat. It has like I love the sound that comes off of it. I love that like we're taking shots at it and it's not hitting and I'm like, oh, you can just be like, Angel's just better and that's the reason why. But no, the object in the sky is the actual shadow, and the angel itself is what appears to be a shadow to us, and we get the idea that there's a different fucking dimension that it's
another universe, I think.
Yeah,
is the phrasing.
It's so neat, man.
What I thought was the coolest choice was that Shinji was like eaten, you know, through what is on the ground and broke out of what was in the sky. I think that was a really interesting choice because I was like not expecting it. It definitely caught me off guard. Very dramatic. Very much liked it.
So, like, and it, like I had said, I think during the episode, like, it sounds like rain, because it really does. All the blood, yeah. And the Evangelion coming out of it. And I think that
reddish in hue, because it's, like, soaked in it.
Yeah. I think this is a really good, like, point in time at, like, closing that bookend of bringing up the three pilots and thinking about what they are going to be like at next episode's start. Because we have Shinji, which we've talked about, which, let's just start with Shinji, right? We've seen him wake up. We've seen him hear the words for, well, that's good for you from Rey. And we know Asuka's right outside the door. But Shinji coming out of this episode, I am so curious to know what, if at all, his memories are of whilst in the angel.
I have very little kind of feelings that are super strong in terms of he's going to retain all of the mental conversations he had. I feel like it's probably going to be the case where he doesn't truly remember everything that happened in the same way that he didn't remember truly everything that happened, like when the Evo went berserk at the beginning of the story, a beginning of the show. I feel like, if anything that's going to be lingering, it's obvious that his hand is still something that he's, like, clenching and unclenching, the blood smell, and then he flopped back on the bed almost in exhaustion, in kind of frustration. Who knows what it is that he's flopping back, the emotion that he flops back into the hospital bed with. But I feel like I just have a giant question mark still over how Shinji is gonna feel. I don't feel as worried about it at the moment as how Asuka might feel, because Shinji might have very little memory of the experience and therefore won't have an immediate kind of reaction to what has happened.
That's very fair. I like that you brought up Asuka there, because her reaction meant so much to me. I fucking love Asuka. I'm piloting something like that. Like, I need to know if this is going to be a thought that's going to be consistently staying with her, because like I want to know what her feelings are going to be like the next time that she's piloting her Eva, because her seeing this right now, I think it makes it's so impactful too, because what do we see right after Asuka seeing it? Her eyes quivering. I'm piloting something like that. Rey, stone fucking cold. And then we go to fucking Ritsuko. What kind of monster have we copied from? Which I'm like, okay, that feels like it's alluding to the idea that the Evangelions are an attempt at cloning or copying angels themselves. But like, Rey's lack of a reaction tells me a lot, and then Asuka's reaction, I'm like, God, I need to see what this is going to look like going forward, because Asuka's not going to forget.
It takes me back to at the beginning of the series when we first meet Asuka. We have that boat captain talking about how these are just giant toys, giant action figures or something that he's toting around on the boats and carrying when he's bringing Asuka to Nerve. And Asuka, the kid, yeah, we're having kids be the pilots for these life-saving machines that need to be protecting the entire Earth against angels. Oh, the pressure. But then the idea that these things are something that even the pilots themselves don't truly understand, or are so much more complex, and are not just incredibly dangerous to be piloting, but also whatever is the darker, maybe not so ethical history to the creation of them.
It's kind of hard to talk about Ritsuko's reaction here without considering what happened earlier in the episode with Ritsuko and Misato. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The slap.
The slap. Yeah. Okay. Can I talk a little bit about my feelings about Ritsuko from that scene then? I believed her. When she says to Misato, I have given you the information, and then a couple lines later says, trust me, I believe her. While I know that she does in fact know more than Misato does, and she is right next to Gendo in terms of understanding and information she is aware of, I think that she's not necessarily lying. I can read I've given you the information as you have the pieces. You have been slipped the pieces. There's subtext to things. You have the availability to have learned these things if you were able to piece them together. And I definitely view her now in a similar kind of place as Kaji. I think both of them want Misato to know more, but they're having different ways of attempting to share that information that is more with her.
Okay.
And I think both of them care for her a lot.
So I kind of landed on the other side of things right here. And I think that I get your interpretation of it. Like the idea that you have all the information you need. Like I can't say more. I'm not going to say
it out for
yeah,
you.
but you have what you need to be putting it together. I think my interpretation of it changed a little bit. Or like maybe the better way to say it is like my interpretation of it was like locked in a bit after they walked past each other and Ritsuko's looking back to Misato. Because I'm like, okay, Ritsuko obviously didn't know that Misato caught Kaji and saw what they saw, right? And I think that Misato, in terms of like the slap and the like, why aren't we focusing on the kids here, right? Like, what's the word that they use to describe Misato in terms of being like a great guardian, right? Like Misato's feelings are what they are, and they are caring of Shinji right here. And I'm wondering if like how I'm reading it is like Misato doesn't even understand why Ritsuko is making the decisions that she is at this point, and Ritsuko is like how we've been putting like Gendo and Ritsuko more up here. I think Ritsuko might almost be similar to Rei in the sense of like we're using these pieces as like chess pieces, right? They're objects, and
it's about the objective.
Yeah, and it's more like all trusting in Gendo within that route, and the saying that I've told you everything here. I want to make sure I have the actual line. I've given you all the information. Like, I could also read it from your point as being like, I've given you all the information that you are supposed to have or that you need to do your job. You know what I mean?
I guess I just want to continue thinking when we have Kaji and Ritsuko interact when Misato's in the bathroom, the fact that Misato got all that kind of private personal information about Ritsuko's mother from her. I definitely want to view them as friends that care for each other. And so I think maybe because I want to view them through that lens, I want to have faith and hope that Ritsuko is not lying here and is actually trying to say, hey, I have told you a lot, just kind of like look deeper. And I think that when she goes into command, she still chooses to try and hope that Shinji is alive.
You're right. That's a really good point, because she wants to do the mission and to do everything earlier as soon as possible to up the odds.
Quicken the pace.
You're right. That's true.
And I think that shows some care. I feel like while she's told Misato, like, these are the objective priorities, Shinji is not one of them. She, once she takes command, still makes what I think at the end of the day is a choice that Misato, especially if she was maybe not so encumbered by the fact that she is literally the guardian of this child, would probably also make.
I think that the feeling that I have of her being like more on the Gendo side of things and that these are pawns comes from later in the episode and not this interaction. Because like what we were just looking at was Ritsuko's reaction to seeing the Evangelion and her questioning everything that they've done so far. And I feel like at that point she is like second guessing or maybe not second guessing, but like questioning at least like the situation and beliefs that she has had that got her here, that led to the Evangelion doing this.
Right. I think that I'll just like cap it off. It seems like she, with what she's learned or saw here in this episode, I don't think she's worried about people finding out because they'll stop what Gendo or Ritsuko are doing. I think she's worried about the feelings of like Rei and Shinji and maybe even Misato when she brings up like, hey, it seems like Misato's figuring some things out. Maybe that's just still me wanting to read her positively in terms of her friendship with Misato, but I feel like she is worried about what she has witnessed in this episode, and I want to view that she's worried about how other people might feel and if they might feel taken advantage of, or that they were led down a path that is actually scarier or maybe more morally or ethically upsetting than they had previously thought. Maybe they would feel like they were betrayed, swindled, taken advantage of. I don't know.
Do you want to end off reading that last interaction with Ritsuko and Gendo?
Sure.
I've never thought these Evas were as frightening as I did today. Are the Evas really on our side? They may hate us. Like, I want to hear who's saying they may hate us. Yeah, like it's all Ritsuko, so it comes across as if like she has been told and assured by Gendo that the Evas are on our side and that they'll do whatever they want to, or that we want them to, and they're for our use. And this is the first time she's like questioning that reality.
This isn't the break though. I don't think this is the first moment she starts to travel down this path. Like when she gets to the crossroads and starts walking down this path of thinking, I think it comes from, I don't know if it was last episode or the episode before, but the punch when we have
You're
that
right.
angel that's attacking internally the system.
She's going for me.
She was going for me. I think that's the moment that Ritsuko maybe starts down this path that gets her to how she's thinking
just
in this
compounding
episode.
now. Interesting.
I mean, it's compounding because of a terrifying sight that she saw.
And then, like, before the I see let her be for now, Ritsuko says, I think that Misato may have noticed something. Like, when I read this line, I think Misato may have noticed something. The only image I have is of her walking past Misato looking behind her. You know what I mean? Those two things go one for one in my head together.
I'll probably, the next couple times we see interactions between the two of them, Misato and Ritsuko, I'm probably going to be trying to see if I can deduce whether it's my current personal feelings about their relationship, or at least on Ritsuko's end, the relationship, or if it's something a little more maybe nefarious. I don't know.
Well, it's really complicated, man, because it's not just like these are two people who work together. We have the established like relationship and friendship between them and how much they trust each other. We've seen them all get drinks together, and because of that, I wouldn't for a second think that Ritsuko has no love or care or doesn't want the best for Misato. That's not at all how I'm reading it. But it's just like it's complicated, man.
It is complicated.
I'm tired. I'm hungry.
I'm also hungry.
Do you have anything else? Killing your own wife. Fuck
Fuck
right. Me, man. I guess my last two things. The lighting in the last shot with how bright it is on Shinji in the hospital bed is phenomenal, but it does not touch or hold a candle to the lighting about 9 minutes and 50 seconds into the episode when we see Asuka and Rei's conversation. It is just breathtaking. It is
and
gorgeous.
Creepy. I don't think
it's creepy.
I think my last thing, I always like to like sometimes end with like a compliment to something. I love the parallels that this show brings, and I feel like just a couple examples, because I feel like there was probably more. Just a couple examples, even though we might have already talked about them. Shinji being so much in the literal dark and blankness when he is trapped inside that kind of shadow of the angel, being in the dark in that way, but Misato being in the dark in terms of lack of information, that sort of thing. And then another one with Misato, when she starts this episode off, we bring up the idea of going out at night for drinks, you know, with Kaji, and then when she gets to work, she's like, that's my personal life, I'm not going to talk about it. And then that, yeah, so like her personal life kind of coming up multiple times. Shinji, she's a guardian of Shinji, the personal life maybe affecting work in that way instead of what you would normally think of it as, I stayed out drinking and that's affecting my work.
It's the
personal
side of
relationship and care for Shinji and being a guardian that might be affecting work.
I like that one. All right, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, subscribe. We hope to see you next time.